You bought an index fund to avoid single stock risk. So why can 10 companies quietly decide your whole experience? That sounds impossible, right? Hundreds of holdings. Owning the market. Set and forget. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Diversified can still mean one big bet in disguise. Not because the fund is lying, because the word diversification got translated into marketing. This video answers one question, and only one. When you buy the market, what are you actually buying? Because most people think they're buying everything equally. But index funds aren't built to be equal, they are built to be proportional. And proportional is where the surprise begins. Think about the promise people hear. If I can't pick winners, I'll own them all. That sounds like surrender, but it's really a design choice. And design choices have consequences, even when nobody intends them. So let's start with the strange part. Index funds don't pick winners, but they amplify them. That sentence sounds like a contradiction, but it's the entire mechanism. And once you see it, you can't unsee it, because it changes what owning the market really means. Now, here's the first trap. Most people measure diversification by counting tickers. I own 500 companies. That must be diversified. But diversification isn't a counting game, it's an exposure game. You're not exposed to 500 names. You're exposed to how the weights are distributed. So what determines those weights? This is where the product's hidden engine lives. Most mainstream index funds are market cap weighted. Translation, bigger companies get bigger weights. Not because someone believes in them more, because their market value is bigger. So the index is a scoreboard, and the scoreboard controls the microphone. If a company becomes huge, it gets louder. If it gets louder, it becomes more of the index. And if it becomes more of the index, it becomes more of you. That feedback loop is the winner machine. This is the part nobody says out loud. Indexing doesn't remove concentration, it can repackage it. You can own everything and still be top-heavy. You can be diversified by count, concentrated by weight. Now, pause and notice the framing. This isn't an argument against index funds, it's an argument against a common story about them. The story that the market is naturally balanced. Markets aren't balanced. Markets are power laws wearing a suit. A small number of winners often dominate outcomes, and market cap weighting is designed to reflect that dominance. So if those winners keep winning, the index leans harder. And if they stop, the index feels the stop immediately. That's not a bug. That's the point of the design. But it creates a second trap. People confuse broad market with even market. Those are not the same thing. Broad means many holdings. Even means similar weights. Most broad indices are not even. They are top-heavy by construction. So when someone says, I own the whole economy, they may be describing the label, not the exposure. Because the stock market isn't the economy. It's a pricing machine for claims on future cash flows. And in that pricing machine, size becomes gravity. The bigger something gets, the more everything orbits it. Now, here's where the psychology kicks in. People buy index funds for emotional reasons. They want safety. They want to stop thinking about money every day. They want a clean identity. I'm disciplined. And indexing can support that identity, but the identity can become a blindfold because the system can change while you feel the same. And this is the core misunderstanding. Diversification does not mean nothing can hurt me. Diversification means one specific thing. It reduces company-specific blow-ups. If one firm collapses, it won't ruin you. That's real. That's valuable. But there's another type of risk that diversification can't erase. The risk that hits everything at once. Call it market risk, system risk, macroeconomic risk. Different names, same idea. The tide moves the whole ocean. A broad index can't diversify away the tide. It can only spread out the pebbles on the beach. So if your diversification story was no big downside, you were trusting the wrong promise. And market cap weighting adds another twist. It can concentrate you into the same tide-sensitive forces, because winners often share the same tailwinds, the same cheap funding era, the same growth narrative, the same technological shift, the same "this time is different" confidence. So the risk isn't just one company, it can be one shared regime. This is why concentration feels invisible until it matters. In calm years, it looks like smart diversification. In stressful years, correlation wakes up. Things that seemed independent start moving together. Not because markets are evil, because incentives and constraints force synchronized behavior. If the biggest firms dominate indexes, and indexes dominate flows, then flows can reinforce dominance. Again, not a conspiracy, a plumbing effect. Now, notice how this changes the phrase owning everything. You're not owning everything evenly. You're owning the market as it currently exists. A mirror of what has already become large. And that is the honest definition of a market index. A rules-based mirror, not a prophecy. So what should diversification mean in your head? Here's the reframe that makes the whole thing click. Diversification is not about number of companies. Diversification is about what drives your outcomes, what factors move the portfolio, what themes dominate the weights. If 10 names carry a massive share of the index, then 10 narratives carry a massive share of your ride. That doesn't mean the index is bad, it means it's specific. And specificity is the opposite of the story people tell themselves. The story of perfect neutrality. Perfect balance. Neutrality is rare. Every system has a tilt, even if it hides behind averages. So here's a simple way to think about it. An index fund is not diversification in a box. It is a map. And the map is drawn in proportion to size. If the landscape changes, the map changes. If a mountain grows, it takes more space on the page. That's market cap weighting in plain English. The winners become the market because the market says they did. So the real question isn't, do I own a lot of companies? The real question is, what portion sits at the top? Because the top is where concentration lives. And concentration is where surprises come from. Now, let's end with the quiet part. This mechanism isn't new, it's just rarely described in human language. Most people only see the label, not the weighting. But once you see the weighting, you see the system. And once you see the system, you stop arguing with headlines. You start asking better questions about structure. About how products turn math into behavior. Because the biggest money mistakes aren't spending mistakes. They're mental model mistakes. And here's the unanswered question that matters next. If indexes mirror the system, who shaped the system they mirror?